Yeah, thank you all for coming out to the greenhouse. As some of you know, but many of you will soon find out, the greenhouse is a partnership between the City of St. Petersburg and the St. Petersburg Area Chamber of Commerce for us to pool our resources together to help businesses in this community. Help them start up, help them grow, help them find the resources and connections they need. We have tons of different programs here from 22 service providers throughout Tampa Bay who come here to help you guys get those resources that you need. We have free one-on-one business counseling, capacity building classes. Starting next Monday, our Entrepreneurial Academy kicks off here, a 10-week course taught by business leaders from St. Petersburg on the best practices for starting and running a business. You can visit us online at www.stpetegreenhouse.org, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/stpetegreenhouse, and give us a call at any time. Any of us are available for you to air your grievances, help you out, help you find what you need. We've got Sophia Sorolis, the greenhouse manager, over here. Eric, out in the hallway, Tracy Smith in the back, Claude Williams, also in the doorway. Any of us are here and happy to help you out. And of course, Jessica is our neighbor as well.
I'm sorry, I don't know who you are.
That's right. My name is Sean Kennedy. I work for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm the Chamber. Folks. And Lisa, it is not. I can assure you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sean. My name is Jessica Eilerman, and I'm the Small Business Liaison here in the Mayor's office. So I want to welcome you again to the greenhouse. Thank you so much for coming. We know your time is valuable, and for you to spend a little bit of it with us means an awful lot. I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of why are we here, just a moment or two, I promise. But we are, actually today is day 67 since Mayor took office, and in those, oh, we can clap, all right, yeah.
Only feels like a year.
And those first few weeks we've spent together, hopefully you've seen the real commitment to the small business community that the mayor has had and to the business community in general. Outreach, listening, talking, hearing from you is very, very important to us, especially at this very beginning time of his administration. So we know where our areas of opportunity are. We know how we can best be your partner so we can really create this community to thrive, both individually but collectively as well. So tonight is the very first small business town hall meeting that the mayor is hosting, and we hope it's just a casual dialogue. We're going to talk. We hope if you have questions you feel comfortable to ask. We hope that you can share some vision and ideas that you might have with us, and that we might be able to answer questions and share some vision of ours so you know kind of where we're headed, because we're doing this together. And finally, I'd just like to maybe lay down a ground rule or two, if I may. We love to hear about businesses. Please feel free to contact me, and I'd love to contact all of you to find out more about what you're doing. However, tonight is not a pitch opportunity for small businesses. So I'd love to hear more about all of your ideas and your products, but we just ask that you refrain from kind of pitching that tonight so we can make sure we spend our little bit of time together in valuable conversation. And also, love to hear about ordinances that might cause you headaches, that might be concerning on why we have them. Love to get that kind of feedback. Please feel free to generally share what that might be, but as far as details of the nitty-gritty about what's going on with your individual operation, I'd love to follow up with you so we can do that on one-on-one instead of in a group forum. So those are my only two asks that I'd have for everyone, and at that point, I'd love to turn it over to our Deputy Mayor, Dr. Kanika Tomlin.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. I am Deputy Mayor of the best city in the entire world. I'm very, very happy to be with you, this constituency group, here tonight. I have the fortunate privilege of sharing with you our vision. One of the first things we did as an administration is get to work on crafting a vision that would serve as both a goal for our internal city team, as well as an articulation of our goals as a city and the destination that we as a city are working to achieve and attain. We started by delineating our values, those things, those attributes that best describe who we are as a city and who we aspire to be. I want to share those with you. I'm going to start with our vision because, again, it is a goal. It's something that, while we will set many goals over the term of our service to the city, the one thing we wanted to put out front was that vision that is not designed to change, but really is designed to be an extended goal that we can work toward individually each year and reach an aggregate with all of the initiatives that we take on. And so our vision, which is born out of the mayor's vision, the reason that he ran to be mayor of this city, and filled with all of the different things that he talked about during his campaign. We took that, we took feedback from constituent groups just like this, feedback from leaders and people on our city team, and came up with this goal. St. Petersburg will be a city of opportunity where the sun shines on all who come to live, work, and play. We will be a creative, innovative, and competitive community that honors its past while pursuing our future. We know that that means different things to everybody. One of the things we want to learn and understand on the 67th day of our service is what that means to you and how we can help that be your truth. Again, we started with our values because we believe everything that we do starts with the values of who we are. And they are accountable servant leadership that puts people and their well-being first, empowerment that fosters ownership and the realization of every opportunity's potential, transparent access to the information that informs decisions, a celebration of diversity and respect for the value that it brings, inclusive practices that promote equality and justice, and responsive processes that produce sustainable outcomes that build a seamless city. Those are the values that really serve as the root of everything that we are working on as a city. It will be the starting point that all of our team members are held accountable, and it will be the litmus by which we judge the effectiveness of our initiatives. We're going to work toward our vision along 4 strategic pathways. And these pathways organize all of our actions, everything from our budget and the way we allocate our resources to the way that we allocate our time within the initiatives that we take on. Those 4 pathways are stewardship and fiscal responsibility, innovation, impactful service, and community engagement. And so we're working very hard as a team to orient our own team. We'll be talking with the city a lot to ensure that everything we are doing harkens back to those values, is developed along those pathways, and works purposefully to take us toward that destination, the vision, as our goal. We're certain that we'll get there. We know that we'll only get there if we go together. It's a collective journey that is absolutely informed by all of the feedback that we get from our city. And so we're honored to serve you and excited about this journey we're taking on together.
And now Mayor Kriseman has some thoughts and comments.
Thank you, Jessica. And since we are going to have a conversation, I'm going to loosen up a little bit here, so I'm going to be a little more relaxed. First off, when we talk about small business, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. In my mind, when I'm thinking of small businesses, I'm thinking of not Target and not Walmart, but local businesses that might be 2 people, 5 people, could be 25 people, but that are born here, that are living and growing here. So to me, when you hear me talk about small business, know that that's, at least in my mind, what I'm talking about. It isn't the big boxes, it's our local businesses. And I come from local business. I had my own business for 13 years. When I had my law practice, my father was a small business owner, started with his own business in a warehouse that, I hate calling it a warehouse because it was a room that was about 12 by 12, until he grew it into something that was about a city block long. And I guess some would say that's not a small business anymore, but he always looked at himself as if he was a small businessman. So small business to me is really the heartbeat of the city. It always has been, I think it always will be, and it's what gives us our culture and our feel. And that's why when I had the campaign, doing something like the small business tour was something that was very important to me. Because I wanted to go out into the community and do something that I I kind of thought wasn't happening, and what I found out was I was right, it wasn't, which is where government goes out and says to businesses, what are you experiencing? Has anyone from the city come by and asked you how you're doing? What are we doing to help you? What are we doing to make it harder for you to be successful? And what can we do to help you thrive? And what I heard during that process was the only time most small businesses had heard from anyone from the city was if it was codes. And that's not the way we want it to be. We want to be proactive because we do want to not only help you survive, we want to help you thrive. And that's been part of the reason that this administration, I think, has a focus on small business that hasn't happened before. From hiring Jessica and bringing her on as our small business liaison, to all three of us going out and doing small business tours after being sworn in. And it's been wonderful. I think I do speak for my colleagues saying that we've really enjoyed this, going out into the community and walking into businesses and having a dialogue and saying, have you ever been visited by anyone from the city other than codes? And what can we do to help you? And that's really the most important piece of it is, what can we do to help you? You know, during my swearing-in ceremony and my speech, I talked about how, you know, in the city, traditionally, we've rolled out the red carpet for big business and red tape for small business. And that needs to change. That's not acceptable. And this administration's not going to continue to allow that to occur. We don't want that to occur any longer. There needs to be a change, and we are really committed to that, and that's why we're here tonight. So tonight, what I'm hoping is that we're going to learn from you all what your visions are, what your hopes and dreams are for your businesses 5 years from now, and what we as a city can do to help you reach those goals and those hopes and those dreams. And what are we doing to make it harder for you to achieve them, so that we can, on our end, address those and do what we can do to try and give you the tools so that you can do what you need to do. So with that, I'm not going to speak anymore because I've said all I need to say. I want to hear what you all have to say. I'm really appreciative of all of you being here tonight. I thank you for giving up your time. And most importantly, I thank you for being here, caring about your city, and having a business here in our city. So we'll open it up.
Okay, all right. Please.
Hal Friedman. My small businesses are like yours. They didn't have to deal too much with the city real estate and consulting practice. But I have a lot of friends, particularly in retail and food service. Food service seems to be the real issue here. It takes forever to open a food service business. And the other night I was in a brand new place that just opened, and they don't speak English very well. It's an Italian place. But he said in his city, Naples, Italy, he was an inspector. He was a policeman and an inspector. And what they would do, or what he personally would do, would go in ahead of time, be proactive, and find out what the plans were and educate, rather than being a cop at the end and hitting them one thing at a time, which is really where the delays are. They'll come in and say, you need this. Then they'll come in and they'll say, great, now you need this. And that's really, I think, the issue with small business when you talk about red tape. So that proactive, even if the only ones they see are codes, if the codes people are more like teachers than cops, I think it would really help.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, don't be shy. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Matt Shapiro. I represent the president of the Downtown Business Association, and we're about 65 small business organizations. And the biggest complaint that I get is the ability of visitors coming here and finding where to go if they don't pick up a downtown map. I know that the Baywalk just got turned to Sundial, and I started working with the chamber on working on signage and wayfinding signage, and we kind of come to a standstill with the city. How can we all work together to represent, I guess, each district with either a signage? I personally have a business on Beach Drive, so I love people flocking down there, but we do have folks all up and down Central that we need to work to spread the visitors so they can learn the different areas.
Yeah, and that is an issue when you come talk about wayfinding signage that has been something I've been interested in for a long time. I actually started talking about it back in the day when I was on council. And I think it's critical that we do a much better job when it comes to wayfinding signage, and not just for the downtown area, although that's important. I want to see signage throughout the entire city so that people know that in West St. Pete, you've got a major retail shopping district with Tyrone Square Mall. And, you know, when we talk about the Woodson Museum in South St. Pete, if you didn't know it was there, there certainly isn't any signage telling you that to head over there. So that is something that we are going to be working on. We're already looking at funding for the program. I'm glad and it's a great partnership with the Chamber in going forward to do that and get that signage program going. It's really important. I think for the success of businesses all throughout the city, that we make it as easy on our visitors as is possible to find the great destinations that we have here.
And we do have some private funding, so if you want to get together later, we can chat.
It's funny, just the other day, I had an image of going through downtown St. Pete and having it like the mall, where there's a spot there where you could see where you're at and where all the other places are, and I said, how can you do that tastefully on the corners, you know, without it being too intrusive or anything? So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's funny, I just happened to have that image the other day, and it'd be really nice if people could sit there and look at it and get that little spice shop that's off in the corner of the ice cream place. It's not apparent that it's there.
Well, and taking it a step further is, you know, when you're a visitor right now to the city, and especially if you're staying in the downtown area, what you get is a map and it's of the downtown. But it doesn't tell you that, you know, if you want to go shopping, the different places outside of the downtown area that you could go, or if you want to eat, that you could eat in the Edge, or you could eat in Grand Central, or you can eat in West St. Petersburg. You know, so we have to do a better job, and not just in wayfinding signage, but in all of our literature that we're putting out into the hotels and the guests are seeing, because if you go to other cities, you see that. And those areas have distinct designations too, which is another thing that we're working toward doing, like the Edge, you know, giving it a name, or Grand Central, or, you know, the West St. Pete Village. I think it's the West Central Village. So we're working on that too, because that's an important piece of it too, giving an identity to the various areas around the city, and then making sure people know how to get to those areas and what's in those areas.
I'd like to speak to the customer side of it as opposed to the business side of it. When I live downtown, and when I'm walking down the street, I will inevitably have people stop me and say, do I have to put money in the meter today? It's a Sunday, it's a holiday, it's after hours, our signage is terrible. I'm not lobbying for more parking, I'm lobbying for better information on the parking we already have. There has to be a way to let people who aren't from the city know what our parking rules really are. And the idea that there are loading zones that aren't used as loading zones, I don't even know what a loading zone means. I don't know when you can use it. And if a business is closed, why is the loading zone not available to be used in the evening? Those kinds of issues.
Those are good points. And one of the things that makes it a little bit more challenging for our visitors is that depending on where you're at, especially in the downtown area, may have a different time of when parking's free, when it's not free, when the meters go in, when they don't, you know, whether it's a 2-hour or 3-hour. And I know that in the past, the city has tried to tailor for the turnaround that helps the business get people in and out, so that you have that turnover, which is good for business, but it also lends itself to confusion. So
It's fine to tailor it, just inform people how
Yeah.
to tailor it.
Yeah, we do need to do a better job. And one of the things I think that we're looking at doing too is with Park Mobile is getting QR codes on the meters too, which I think would be helpful.
And I love your question, because I think it is so important, and I want to underscore. You asked it as a host of our city. And I think that is really important. Everyone who lives here, who has the fortunate fate of being a resident of this city, plays host to all of the people who are visiting us. So I'm glad that you have that. We need to empower you with you have that sentiment. We need to empower you with the resources and everyone to be able to be a good host. But thank you for owning that responsibility. It's fantastic.
Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Campbell with CPR Cell Phone Repair of St. Pete, and we want to grow in this city. We have one location already. We have identified a couple of potential locations. One of the issues we have is finding a space that's actually small enough to be viable for us. We've identified the location on 4th Street and are very hampered by the fact that signage, again, is limiting. So it's a great location in terms of traffic driving by, but our understanding is that we could have a sign that's about this big to identify our business. So we find that very frustrating, and so far it's been a stumbling block for us signing the lease.
Signage seems to be a pretty prevalent issue that we hear a lot on our travels, and I think what it means to all of us is that we have to take a real hard look at our sign ordinances and what we're doing and how potentially we're crippling businesses. You know, and it is a balance, because you don't want to have, you know, huge overblown signs everywhere, but at the same time, if you can't find the business, how do you know to go there? You know, and that was, of all the businesses that I visited during the campaign, I walked into, I always told the story of one business I walked into on 22nd Street South, and the gentleman said the same thing. I said, have you ever been visited by anyone from the city? He said, yeah, codes telling me my sign was illegal. He said, and, you know, how do I let people know I'm here? And he's not there any longer. So we need to take a look at our sign ordinances, and that is something we're going to do.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Deputy Mayor. I want to make comments from two perspectives. First, as a business association president for both MLK and Grand Central, and then as an architect. I want to thank city staff, both Tracy Smith, where'd you go, Tracy? There she is, and also Gary Jones. We're very helpful, and if we can bolster resources to interact with the associations, that would be good. And we also actually had codes people that showed up for our meetings in a proactive way, and we talked through, sometimes you get into issues that there are two sides to every story sometimes as it involves with codes. But the other thing I'd like to do is shift my comments now as an architect practicing, having helped several small businesses get going along Central, and done in many cases, the documents that were reviewed by the city. About 2.5 years ago, the prior administration instituted a fee for, used to be able to go to a pre-submittal meeting and sit down with a fire plans examiner and a commercial codes examiner and ask questions on the front end so that a business owner would know big picture issues like, do I have to put fire sprinklers in? What level of ADA improvements I have to make, kind of showstopper things in order to do their due diligence about property. What I've seen over the last 2 years is that business owners are compressed with time and small businesses short on capital. And a lot of times, folks will try and get around that meeting because it costs. If there were a way to take that fee and shift it back into the permitting to not lose any revenue, but to allow people to get that information up front, to facilitate the due diligence process, I think that would be a huge thing. The other thing is you've got some really good programs right here at the greenhouse. And if there were a checklist and a little bit of an incentive for folks who are getting ready to set up a business and go into, very rarely does small business build a new facility. They're rehabbing, they're remodeling, they're doing things. And when you're in that kind of scenario, it's kind of like pulling at a string on a ball of yarn. How far do you unravel it? And what's the potential cost of that going to be? And so if there were a way to simply for a business owner to say, okay, I've got to do these 7 things, and I can make an informed business decision. And one of them, I would suggest you would be to go through some of the courses that are taught right here in the greenhouse, because the information is there. Folks just aren't sure where to get it. And a good model of this is Sarasota County if you do anything green, if you hit a certain level of sustainable improvements, you get your permit in 5 days. I think it may be even shorter now, but that's guaranteed. The other thing I would like to say is the chief building official, Rick Dunn, does a really good job of working with small business whenever he can. I'm going to try and be as delicate as I can here, but some of our fire inspectors don't always look at things with what is possible mentality. And so, but the other thing, and this is no fault to either one of the organizations, we have 2 codes, and a lot of times they're in conflict. And a business owner will chew up time and spend money on a place that they can't get into to get revenue back into their pocket because of it. So how we resolve that issue is an important thing as we come out of this economy and small business starts to go into these smaller spaces.
Thank you, Andy. Those are great comments. Let me just make one response to the last thing you said as far as the issue with the building inspector versus the fire marshal. We've heard also from others similar constructive criticisms, and we are looking into the issue already. We've already started having discussions because we recognize there's some things that need to be addressed. So.
Yes, sir.
I want to second your discussion. I am too an architect, and my clients have walked away from buildings, restaurant buildings, which I do a lot of, and the time factor between we start the sketches with them and the permitting stage is endless, and that discourages our small businesses. I'd like to see more interplay between the small business people here and the building department to allow this thing to go much smoother and simplify things so we can get more small businesses starting on time quickly. Thank you.
I have a quick question before we'll take your comment or question next. How many folks here, is this your first time in the greenhouse? Can you do a show of hands? Oh, welcome everyone, thank you. And how many people here have taken a class or come to utilize the services of the city? Show of hands. Awesome, thank you very much. Spread the word, help us do that. To Andy's point, we're trying to get more and more folks aware that there are quite a bit of resources here. We have amazing, talented staff who are very willing to do and help however they can. So thank you for that, and let's just keep that word going. Sir?
Yes, my name is Bill Hammond. I have a couple of properties on Central Avenue, and to speak on something that was just brought up. If I can, I'd like to ask what your administration is, the policy for sidewalks and how they maintain maintenance is going to be. The last many administrations have kind of ignored, it seems, the infrastructure of the city in a lot of ways. It's not very glamorous. It doesn't get headlines. But for myself specifically, I have property in the 2800 and 2900 block of Central Avenue, which in our area we call a corner of crack and murder. The sidewalks there have been ignored for so long that the gaps between the X blocks are 2 inches wide. So when I go to the city with a plan to rehab a recent property that I purchased, one of the things that I'm being told is that I have to, make my building more ADA compliant, which I think is kind of funny because the sidewalk outside is not ADA compliant, and if somebody in a wheelchair were to go on that sidewalk, their wheels would get jammed in between the X blocks, trying to get to my ADA compliant building. If I can also relate a story, I bought this building that I'm speaking about at 2828 Central a year ago this month, and shortly thereafter, a prospective tenant wanted to put a microbrewery there. He has a successful place up in Balm Harbor. He wanted to relocate in the Grand Central District. He came down, he met with a local architect, and we did some preliminary work, went to the city, and the city said that if this man wanted to put a microbrewery he, as a tenant, or I, as the owner, would have to pave the alley. So that was engineering that said that. And so then, after some investigation, we found out that wouldn't that's what happens downtown when people take over big blocks and they're required to do that. So the head of the building department said, no, that's not going to apply to you. But in the meantime, though, it made the respective tenant really gun shy. And needless to say, I don't have a microbrewery in my building, and this guy's not my tenant. But that I was later told that in paving the alley, it does need to be paved, and that it's not the city's responsibility to pave it. The same as it's not the city's responsibility to maintain sidewalks, because that's actually my property, and the sidewalks in the alleys are just a right-of-way that the city has. So years, of course, of neglect have led to an alley that needs to be paved, a sidewalk that needs to be repaired, and that's just in front of my specific spot. And I understand that you're 67 days into the job, that for decades the city has ignored the infrastructure of the city. I think in some areas, of course, you know, the city's happy to spend $50 million on a pier, but not so much on sidewalks and alleys. And just speaking to just something, if I can take a little bit more time, is that okay?
Yes.
I have ironically, I own two properties on Central Avenue, one on the north side, one on the south side. They're both available for lease. And so I'm just saying that because somebody came and they wanted to put a restaurant there, and the new fire regulations require that if the occupancy is going to be more than 100 people, then you're required to put in a sprinkler system. The property on the north side of the street it's approximately $15,000 to put a sprinkler system in. The property on the south side of the street is double that, because there's an 8-inch water main on the north side of the street, and there's only a 2-inch water main on the south side of the street. So, you know, and I'm sure that obviously nobody looked into this before they implemented this rule that's citywide or statewide. So now we're in this situation where this rule has been put in place, and you would think that it should be evenly, you know, administered to everyone, so that it wouldn't matter whether you were putting your restaurant on the south side of Central Avenue or the north side of Central Avenue. It should cost the same, and the city services should be the same on both sides of the street. But that's another example of where things are just not meshing together.
Well, and your example goes back to what you initially were talking about, which was infrastructure.
Right.
And I think we've had a lot of conversations on our team about infrastructure and the fact that it's not where we'd like it to be either. And what you said was absolutely right. It's not sexy. It doesn't get people excited. You don't necessarily tangibly see it. So, you know, I think in years past when decisions were made about one thing or another, infrastructure was always pushed to the side because for those very reasons. But the impact of them and the fact that it's been pushed to the side is now being felt, and you felt it directly. So, you know, we are taking a look at a lot of our policies as far as sidewalks and alleys go. It's something that I have heard about previously. So we are starting to look at that. And as far as infrastructure goes, yeah, our attention is going to be to infrastructure. We recognize that there are a lot of needs, and it's unfortunate that the state regulation, which is what fire codes are, and a lot of times they change every 3 years, and unlike, from what I'm told, unlike the building code, which provides grandfathering provisions, the fire code doesn't do that in the same way because of life safety issues, although the statute does provide some flexibility that sometimes, you know, there's a tendency of looking past, because quite frankly, you know, when you're a firefighter, your job is to protect and safety, and that's your number one concern. So it's a lot harder sometimes for those guys to recognize some of the other impacts of those things. But we are looking at those things for the same reasons that you're raising those concerns.
So, thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to speak to you directly about this. And as a small business person here, and my properties are leased directly to people who are opening small businesses, you know, things like alleys not being paved, sidewalks not being maintained, you know, these are directly affecting and impacting me as a small business person, and then also the people that are possible tenants. So, and this space, this one space that I'm referring to, it's been for lease for a year, and it's not like it's not like I'm asking a lot of money for this space, and I just finished putting. The guys are in the process right now, finishing putting a new metal roof on. It's not, you know, it's not for lack of. It's been recently painted. I had an asbestos abatement company remove asbestos floor tiles, and so, you know, all of these things I'm doing as the property owner, but then to be, you know, told by the city that you need to pave the alley.
Well, and this is exactly the reason we're out visiting with businesses on the tours that we've had 3 of so far, and this is exactly why we're hosting tonight, and we hope to host many more, is to have these kind of conversations to see just that impact and hear it from you and see how it is that chain reaction that you're feeling. This is what informs us, so we can get together and make good decisions that hopefully can impact in a positive way. So thank you, we appreciate it.
And this is just one block on the street, so.
But it's the reality behind the rhetoric of our vision, right? It's where the rubber meets the road. It's what will make it your truth. You know, we have to be able to not only hear these types of issues, but affect meaningful change so that this is a city of opportunity for you, you know, where you and the people who rent from you and the people who use those businesses feel the sun shining on them. So we hear you. We need a little bit more time, but we hear you, and we're working on it. And we're working on it in a way that we can really try to impact, change, and lay a foundation beyond our time in service. You know, a lot of what you're talking about were decisions that were made decades ago. Or not. And we understand. And we understand. So much of what we're doing.
Also, please, I'm finding fault.
Yeah.
New here.
No,
Right.
we appreciate you coming and letting us know about it, and we're not taking it that way
At all. We hope to get it right for the guy who will be standing here in 20 years.
Sure. You know, this is a tourist state where we, you know, as a county and a city, we spend a lot of money advertising to get people to come here, and we put in traffic calming things to slow cars down so that they can see businesses and get out of their cars, and get to the sidewalk and trip.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
There, Jim Griniger, I'm a local attorney and on the board of directors for Keep St. Pete Local, and work with a lot of, both nonprofit and for-profit businesses. And one thing some people here I've heard a lot of, and I'm just going to echo, is the issue with the fire inspectors, because the problem has been both that they're inconsistent. You get one inspector and they say one thing, one inspector they say something else, and it's really hard for me dealing with clients when they see one business that they've given okay to and say, this is perfectly fine, when I can see visually it's not up to fire code, but for whatever reason they got a different inspector. And then also the problem that some of the inspectors not just are inconsistent, but also that they've been kind of unprofessional in, kind of acting a little, some have been really nice, but some have been kind of thuggish. And I understand it's not an issue of the city, it's a totally different department, but whatever help you could give. I've just heard that so many times from so many different people. Whatever you can do, great.
Well, and appreciate it. And it is an issue of the city. And it's not acceptable. There needs to be consistency across the board, whether it's from the fire marshal or from the building department or from us. We need to be consistent on how we're doing things, because if you all need consistency, you rely on that. Without that, it makes it impossible to do business. Each of these departments needs to be consistent. They need to be professional. You need to be business owners, our citizens, our visitors need to be treated with respect. and anything to the contrary is really not going to be tolerated. That's just not the way, you know, and I have tried to impress upon administrators, managers, directors, everyone on down the line, that the way we've been doing things is changing. The first answer of no is not acceptable anymore. We want people, when you have a question and you're trying to get something done, we want the first response to be, let's see if we can figure out how to make that happen. And no should be the last thing after we've exhausted all of our efforts. It shouldn't be the first thing we turn to because it's the easiest thing to say. That has to change. And that's a cultural change that we're trying to do. As you all know, sometimes changing the culture is oftentimes the most difficult thing because if it's something you're used to doing and it's the way it always has been, and that's something that always drives me crazy when I hear, well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, just because it's the way you've always done it doesn't mean it's the way you should do it. And even if it worked by doing it that way, that doesn't mean you should still continue doing it. Maybe there's a way of doing it better. So that's the philosophy, that's the culture we're trying to instill throughout City Hall right now and in every city employee.
Yes. Hi, Wendy Duran. I want to speak as both a downtown resident and also as a small business owner. I'm an artist in the Warehouse Arts District. And I know that when I'm walking downtown, I also, like Willie, am often stopped, or I see people perplexed looking at maps and trying to figure out where they're going. And I love our city, and I think there's so much to do here, and I'm constantly saying, are you looking for something in particular? Is there a restaurant recommendation that you need? You know, that sort of thing. But also as a small business myself, as an artist who resides within another small business, which is only a year old, the Play Center, I know that as you're coming down Central Avenue, whether you're taking just the regular trolley or whether you're a visitor or a resident in the city, there's no signage that speaks to anything in the Warehouse Arts District, and all of the many, many, many fine artists who are working there. And it would be really helpful at various points along Central Avenue to have a listing maybe of, well, if you go down this block, you know, there are these businesses.
We actually have, we approved today or handed off for the final draft for the PSTA for the Central Avenue trolley. We've designed with PSTA, and they're going to print it inside the Central Avenue trolley. It will say, in the 300 block you're going to find this, in the 400 block you're going to find that, in the 500 block you're going to find that, and so that a tourist coming along can see, if I get off here, this is what I'm going to find. And so that was something that PSTA was really happy to do, and they're even going to call it this Central Arts Line, I think, and put a sign on the outside of their trolley. So little things like that that we've done as a private business working with PSTA, and then got approval from all the districts work well. So it's not always even city. Sometimes we can accomplish some things and take on those projects ourselves. So that should be in the trolleys pretty darn soon. It's great.
But I also want to add that there are people who walk and there are people who drive. And so the idea of having, I think it was this gentleman here who raised the issue of having some sort of, kind of like you have in malls, you know, yes, where you go would be helpful.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Tony Macon. I'm from Square Barbershop on 22nd Street in St. Petersburg, Midtown. And what I hear a lot about is what we're looking for business to do and how we're going to make business. Okay, I'm quite sure a lot of us in here are business people, right? Okay, in order for us to make business and to get business, one thing what I look at is who's around me. I'm not going to get a tourist down on 22nd. It's very seldom. But as a businessman for a while in this community, what I started exhausting was using the resources that I think of myself. I'm not gonna get nobody to give me no loan. I'm not gonna get nobody to do too much or nothing for me, and I done found this out in business. The only way I found something that's gonna work for me is getting local business peoples together and go inside, say, Wilson's Bookstore. Go over there, all of us go in there and patronize that bookstore at one time. Wilson's gonna make some money. And then after that, we refer and we patronize. And we know everybody, somebody know everybody that knows somebody. We have a email list of whatever. Every organization have a contact list. Okay, it's time to come under one umbrella. Okay, say I go to this young man's store and patronize his store. He do good business to me, I refer people to him. And we can do this through the whole city instead of looking for government funding. Okay, we have funds in our own pockets that we can help ourselves out. It ain't about what somebody can do for you. It's what we can do for ourselves. Let's get up and do it for ourselves and stop whining, stop crying. Okay, I can't ask nobody for nothing again, but I get out and use the people that's inside of my neighborhoods. Those are my potential customers. Like I said, I'm not gonna get no tourists. Face to face, I have faced it, okay? I'm working on me. How can I help myself? And I get a group of people and we walk in businesses throughout the city and patronize these businesses. Okay, I don't have $200 or $300 in that business. It don't take but $10 or $15 from each one of us, and look how much a business done made that particular day. That'll help with inventory. That'll help with a light bill. You know, it makes sense to me that I can't look for my government up here to do nothing for me. I'm glad they're here to help take care of city problems. My business is not a city problem. My business is a self problem. See, I got to look inside and come up with what I can do for myself. And I have always made it, do it myself. We patronize, and then all it is a form of networking. Form of networking. I leave my business card in the store, and if I walk in your store and we done came in there and spent a bunch of money, you're gonna like this idea, ain't you? You're gonna like this idea. So why don't we stop depending on everybody else and start using the resources that we have around us? And if we don't, we're losing. I got John Park right behind me. If nobody never known, that's what we call the hood, okay? That's where all the thugs and the bugs and all that other stuff at. But I don't look at those people like that. I look at those people as potential customers to me, okay? And if I go and have an event at a local church and get all the church members in and get these people to start wanting to patronize businesses, okay, we say it's a community thing. Let's work with the community. That's where all our money at. Money don't start up here. Money start at the bottom, okay? One customer means something to me. If I get a new customer every day, I'm appreciative for that because I know I'm doing something right. And I'm gonna teach my customers how to go and patronize other businesses that's in our communities. Whether it's on the south side, north side, east side, or west side. It ain't no, it's a community. Get all of this other stuff out your head. I'm the president of the Deuces Live. But a guy asked me in a meeting, how far do the Deuces go? I said the whole city, because I want to help the city. It ain't all about me. It's about us coming together and making a bridge to come over. Just like the Skyway fell down, they rebuild it. Now it's time to rebuild our community and stop depending on our local government and start depending on business people. Because this is what people like to do.
Just a quick comment to that. It goes directly to what the deputy mayor was talking about in the vision about community and bringing the community together. And, you know, the Grand Central area really is a great example in my mind of a business district that is is successful because the neighborhood around it supports it and goes to those restaurants and those shops and frequents it. And, you know, if the Deuces is going to be successful, you're absolutely right. It's going to take the neighborhood around it, but it is the whole community. It's the whole city. And if we go around to the various neighborhoods and areas in the city, there's some real jewels, whether they're restaurants or shops that are here in the city in different areas. Actually, it's one of the most fun parts about the small business tour is we walked into businesses that I'd never been in before, and I've been back since, not because I needed to, because it was part of the job, but because I wanted to, because they're great businesses. And I enjoy what they have to offer, so appreciate it.
And one other thing, I have seen success. My business has picked up since I've been out patronizing for myself. I've been marketing for myself. Am I gonna sit down and go out of business? That's not an option. If you wanna go out now, it's an option for you, but it's not now.
I think one of the jewels in the city is the Loomis Stream St. Pete College Coalition that's now at First Avenue South and 22nd. George Gordon is here from Loomis Stream, and Jessica was one of the people who was in the beginning of that. And I think that's a remarkable coalition between a manufacturing group, an LED group, and an educational center that now is training their second class of people who will be able to get high-paying jobs. And it seems like it's in a great part of the city. The challenge I see for this is the following. They're ramping up incredibly quickly. I mean, this is an incredible success story. But in the end, they're going to be limited, just like any other electronics firm in the state, by the ability to manufacture LEDs. And so I wonder if you've got some thoughts about how we, in fact, could lure Jabil to open up downtown.
We're working on it. I
have to ask Kanika for more specifics.
I will tell you, I have spoken to the president and made it very clear to him that we would love to have them in downtown St. Petersburg. And we are working on it. I think it would be a great addition to downtown. But every single one of you that have a business that's in the downtown, you all are a great addition. And you're a great addition to your neighborhoods also. So I want to make that very clear. But yeah, I'd love to have them downtown along with their workforce, going to our restaurants and shopping in our shops. I think would be huge.
Well, you see, Draper would feed into it, SRI would feed into it, Johns Hopkins would feed into it.
There's a lot of, yeah, there's just a lot of connections. And that is something that we are, as a team, very focused in on. And as an administration, Dave Goodwin is here, and we all are committed to doing everything we can to really make some changes and grow businesses, big and small. I mean, when I talk about small business, I want to make sure I'm very clear that I want big businesses here too. It's a thriving city has a great mix, between local businesses and the big manufacturers that have the big employment base. That's important too. So your Jabils are very important to us. Your Valpaks are very important to us, businesses like that. We would love to see them, SRI, Draper, Johns Hopkins, and I can go on. And these are all focus of ours also. So we are looking at everything. We just want to create jobs in the city. We want people to get good paying jobs and have great opportunities here. Because if we don't have people with good jobs, then your businesses are in trouble too. Because there's got to be people going to your businesses. So that's an important piece of it too. It all works together.
And I'd be remiss, since we're in the great building, not to recognize you for the wonderful thing you did at North Shore Pool. The geothermal heating and cooling system. It should have been done a long time ago. Thank you for taking the initiative.
Well, thank you. We have a real focus, in the city on being sustainable, and that's why I appointed Mike Connors, my Director of Sustainability and Green Initiatives. I want it to be very clear that we think there's huge opportunity from an economic development standpoint, but also quality of life standpoint and what's good for our country and our environment, our city and our state. To be green, to be sustainable. And they go together. And the opportunities when it comes to LED and solar and battery technologies and bio-waste and all of those things are huge. And there's some really cool things happening.
The idea for that innovation actually bubbled up from a staff engineer who had a great idea,
Yes, it
and
did.
we found a way to make it happen. And it's exactly the type of culture change that we're infusing. Great ideas come from everywhere.
What was that confused?
Okay, yes.
I'm Gabe Hobbs, I'm both a resident and business owner down here, and my apologies if this already exists. I know there's lists of like restaurants, museums, and things that are put out, but I've never seen a list, a comprehensive list with specific categories like barber shops. I run a talent agency and media company, where people wouldn't necessarily know that's available and might go to Orlando or Miami or Atlanta or New York to get that service when it's right on Central Avenue, like the Alexander Building, where you can't put signage out, that sort of thing. But I don't know if there's a huge list. I know that would be an undertaking, but again, I think incumbent on the businesses to sign up to do that within certain categories, almost like a little mini Yellow Pages, just, novel and detail. Is there something like that now, or is it just pretty much the stuff for tourists and not for necessarily local residents?
The single comprehensive list is a little hard to find. The Chamber's got a list of its members, of course. Local Shops one is in the back, has a detailed list. Keep St. Pete local as well. There is not, that I know of, the one.
I'm going to defer to our Sophia or Dave. Does that, anything like that ring a bell?
We have some GIS maps online that is available.
So I'm sorry, some what?
GIS maps online that you can look up certain types of businesses, not every type of restaurants are on there. You can scroll through the map and tell you about the restaurants.
Those are
It's very hard to
great
keep up
for tourists
with.
and all that. And I said, the fact you guys are having trouble even knowing if there's a list.
Jessica,
Booklet or what, or online, something people, if I live here, I can say, hey, I wonder if we have this kind of service here, where I don't have to go to Atlanta or somewhere to get it.
As a model, you might look at a website called Made in Chicago. It's exactly what you're describing, and it's gotten so much critical mass that businesses are flocking to it to sign up. I can send you the website if you like.
Please, thank you.
Well, and that, you didn't directly raise it, but it kind of goes to the issue of the website in general. As I heard a snicker from the front row, and I share that snicker. The city's website is very difficult to use. Yes. And we know it is. And it is something that will be changed. We want to make it much more accessible, much easier to use, provide better information that's easier to follow, so that the length of time you spend on the website isn't because you can't find what you want, it's because you are wanting to spend the time on it. And that is an opportunity. And I know the Chamber is also talking about doing some work with their website too. So there's some opportunities that we have between the Chamber and the city to really become much easier to navigate, both for those who reside here and for those who are visiting here.
Now, along the same lines, if I may, I noticed when the administration changed, the marketing person you had for the city left and went to work for Bill Edwards. Has that position been, do we have a new marketing director? I can't find it on the city website.
Job for the new marketing person.
Robert Danielson is the interim marketing director right now. We have not hired a permanent director at this point in time. So Robert's acting in that capacity.
His name is Robert Daniels?
Yes.
Does either the Chamber or the city have a comprehensive media list that they would keep current, that we could use? I mean, as small businesses trying to keep track of, okay, who's the news editor now, or who's the arts editor here, and it would be, I know other cities have done that through their chambers, where whether it's their members' access or just general access, that they keep a way to keep a media list that's current. If they have to do it for their own use, could they do something like that that we would have access to?
I'll be happy to look at and talk to our communications person. I'm not sure.
Yeah, either the city or chamber.
We keep an updated city list, and that's something that we would share with anybody in the city who is interested, for
You
sure.
can put it on your website.
As a downtown resident, but also as a person who is impacted in other areas, when the city is allowing street closures and things like that that affect businesses in areas, it would be really great if you could simplify your instructions as to what's going to be closed. It's a lot easier to see a map that says it's closed here, as opposed to having to read, well, it's closed from here to here, and it's doing this, and it's doing that. But if you could just say, there's street closures in this area on these streets, it will make it, I think it's easier for a lot of people to look at a map rather than to have to read through and say, does that include me or not, as opposed to, I know I'm here.
Good suggestion.
Mel from Central Perks Cafe.
Oh, man.
Go 600 block. I'm fortunate enough to have a thriving business in 600 block. I would love to stay open late, capture some of the state theater business and other great activities that we have. But I feel like there's a safety issue at night. Homeless, that I wouldn't want to put my employees in there late at night, and just not feeling comfortable myself to do so. And I'm just wondering, how can we address the homeless issue down there in that, just the downtown area?
Great question. Ironically, today we had Dr. Robert Marbut was back in the office. Dr. Marbut was really instrumental in some of the initiatives that were very effective at addressing our concerns with the homeless population in a caring way. And he hasn't been back for a while, and we recognized that we had issues that really had kind of resurfaced again in ways that we were not happy with. So we brought him back in today. He's working with Cliff Smith and Mike Dove, whose departments that is now under. And we are going to be addressing that pretty promptly because we do recognize we have some challenges. When it comes to policing, we're in the process of our search again, to get our search completed so we can start reviewing potential candidates for a new chief, because we do need to get a new chief hired. And we also do need to take a look at, and this is something I'm very interested in, is whether we are fully or appropriately staffed, or is it an issue of how we're deploying? Because I've heard a lot of complaints during the campaign and since the campaign regarding not the job that our men and women do, because we've got great police officers that serve us, but are we appropriately staffed or deployed so that the responses are timely, if at all, that crimes are being investigated, and so that people feel safe, because that is a critical piece of economic development when we're out trying to lure businesses to the community or to keep those we have here and to help them survive and thrive. Do their employees feel safe? Do their customers feel safe? And if the answer to either one of those two questions is no, then we have a problem because it's going to be hard to keep that business or to attract that business. So those are issues, the homeless issue and the police issue, that are very high on our radar, that we are looking at and will be addressing.
And tagging too.
I'm sorry?
And tagging too. Graffiti.
Oh, I just wanted to mention another comparative to a couple of the issues that have come up. Rochester, Minnesota, because of Mayo Clinic, has a lot of visitors coming in. And they have these great little interactive screens. They're about this big. They kind of look like a computer. But it's run through the Convention Visitors Bureau. And it's a very simple form that any business owner can fill out your information. And then you identify your top 3 categories. And then this interactive screen will place you into all those categories. And you can click around on there and you can gather business from where you're at. So if you wanted to walk only 4 blocks, you can see every business in that 4 blocks. Or you can do a search function that says, I need a barber shop, and it will pull up every barber shop that has registered. So, and then it puts it back onto the business owner. So if you want to be listed into that awesome database, you need to fill out that simple form. And so it's not really, doesn't need to be babysat by, by anybody necessarily. It's a really simple form, interactive, awesome. I mean, local people use them, visitors use them, and great little screens.
Thank you.
And if I may, one quick addition to that goes to what the gentleman from the Deuces said, and what Dr. Tomlin said is that we all are ambassadors. You all are ambassadors for the city, and we appreciate that. Even if it wasn't your intention, you all are. And you have the greatest opportunity in just being out there and talking to people to help people and point them out. And it comes back to you when you, as the gentleman was saying, when you give it and you put it out, you get it back. So when you have an opportunity to help somebody and point them in the direction, of where something else is, somebody hopefully will do the same thing for your business. So that's a great technology that certainly I'm interested in looking at. But we have our own technology right here in the room that we also can take.
A component of that is a program called the Certified Tourism Ambassador. It's a CTA program. Anybody can sign up to do it through the chamber there. And then they have a running source of volunteers that stand around in certain points in shirts, and they are there to answer questions. Because there's so many people coming from Mayo Clinic that there's a lot of visitors in that area too. But great program, people can stay active and connected and volunteer. And the CTAs, have their own little social networks and stuff where they get business perks from other people too, so they love to be a part of it. It's a neat idea.
That's great. Something that ties into what Hal was saying earlier about wayfinding and parking and being a tourist-friendly city. Something that's not a tourist-friendly city are our tow-away parking lots. There are about 150 to 200 cars every weekend that are towed from the tow-away parking lots. People parking in the Publix lot, people parking in the other lots that are for businesses only during the day. At night, they're totally empty, but they've got the little signs on it that says we tow 24 hours, and they do. And they have a blue Toyota pickup truck that drives around and watches for cars parked there and tows them. And it's $125 cash, personal experience. But it's unfriendly to tourists.
Well, and in response to that, I mean, what that requires of us, and it's certainly something I'm not sure if we've done it yet as in the past or not, and if we haven't, we should, but it's talking to the property owners, because if it's their property, and if they're not willing to allow, even when they're closed, people to be parked in their lot for whatever reason, we can't force them to do that, but we can certainly reach out to them if we haven't, and encourage them to be good community partners for all of us, and in that way, so that doesn't happen.
Okay, I'm going to call last question. In the back.
About the parking and towaway. That is a that falls back on the owner, the private property owner. If someone gets hurt on your property, you're the one that can sue, which is why a lot of people keep those private. I've been towed too, by the way, on my birthday. But anyway, one of the things that I would like to talk about is having a great campaign where we work together as business owners, the city, the chamber. Maybe something that is very easy, something that says, when you're on vacation, what is it that you ask when you go? Where do locals go? Right? Doesn't everybody do that when you go to another city? You ask where do the locals go? Why don't we do a campaign like that?
Miss Bridget, we're on it.
We're on it. That's why you're a doctor and I'm a patient.
Mr. Mayor, I know you only been on about 6-7 days. I print out your organizational chart. You can look around the room. I want you to survey all your staff members from each department. And those that are represented, give them high marks. But if they're not here, you should hold them accountable, because we spend our time as small business owners to come out and
many of the common things we've heard, I want to see the administration, the representatives, your staff. So I won't give my marks to those that are hosting, but
I hear that, and I will say, let me address that because it's an interesting point you have there. One of the things we wanted to do this first time out was to have a conversation, and we are in a space-constricted room, and we wanted to have as many business owners as possible, so we didn't call out for all the administrators to attend this one. But I hear what you're saying, and what we hope is today is a start of many conversations, so in future dialogues and town halls we'll host, maybe we'll have topical ones. So if it's a topic that's of interest to you, that appropriate or those appropriate staff members will also be there, so we'll interface at that level. So today was a start of what we hope is more, so I appreciate that feedback, but part of that is because we wanted to make sure we had as much room as possible, kind of find out what some of the questions and concerns were so we can go from there. I will say Dave Goodwin from Economic Development's right over here, and Sophia Sorolis. They both attended, and Nikki Capehart was here. Okay, she just scooted out, I think. And of course, we have our greenhouse staff here. Tracy, will you wave to everybody? Say, okay, Tracy's in the back over there. Claude's out there standing up, waving. Lisa's standing against the door. Where's Eric at? Oh, I didn't even see you over there. There's Eric. And then of course us. But I take that feedback to heart, and I will also make sure, I don't know if you've been noticing, but I've been taking notes up here. It's my responsibility to then share this feedback that has happened tonight with appropriate individuals so we can continue conversation. So thank you for bringing that up. I'd like to say one thing in closing. First of all, again, thank you for your time. I think the town hall is an amazing piece of our democracy, if you allow me to go there for a moment. It's when you interact with your elected leadership, and your elected leadership interacts with you on issues that matter in a really casual, informal, but meaningful way. This is a tool that we have here in this wonderful country, and I think it's something that we are committed to doing, is hearing, having conversations, and then to Kanika's point earlier, have meaningful change from that and improvement. So thank you for coming tonight. We hope we'll see you again, and our phone lines, our offices, our emails, they're open for conversation, so please interact with us. It's a two-way conversation.